So, hey guys, welcome back to the end of Chapter 1 and to the beginning of Chapter 2 with our novelization, Star Wars Darth Plagueis by James Luceno. Hope you guys enjoyed the last one with the rain sounds, the voice acting, and kind of just that thing. Let me know down in the comments if you guys like the rain sounds, if you like the voice acting, or what would you prefer moving forward. Other than that, let's get back to where we left off. Plagueis grasped that a powerful explosion was perhaps imminent, but was mystified by his master's almost mad dash for the surface. In the past, Tenebrous had rarely evinced signs of discomfort, let alone fear. So what danger had he sensed that propelled him with such abandon? And when in the past had they fled danger of any sort? Safeguarded by the powers of the dark side, the Sith could hardly fear death when they were allied to it. Plagueis stretched out with his feelings in an attempt to identify the source of Tenebrous' dread, but the Force was silent. 10 meters ahead of him, the Bith had ducked under a scabrous outcropping. Haste, however, brought him upright too quickly, and his left shoulder glanced off the enough rock, leaving a portion of his suit shredded. Quote, "Master, allow me to lead," Plagueis said when he reached Tenebrous. He was only slightly more agile than the Bith, but he had better night vision and a keener sense of direction, over and above what the Force imparted. His pride wounded more than his shoulder. Tenebrous wiped off the offer, quote, "Be mindful of your place." Regaining his balance and composure, he streaked off, but at a fork in the tunnel, he took the wrong turn. Quote, "There's my master," Plagueis called from the other corridor, but he stopped to surrender the lead. Closer to the surface, the tunnels opened into caverns the size of cathedrals, smothered and hollowed by the rainwater that still surged in certain seasons of Plagueis' long year. In pools of standing water darted various species of blind fish. Overhead, hawkbags took panicked flight from their roosting places in the stippled ceiling. Natural light in the far distance prompted the two Sith to race for the grotto. But even so, they were a moment late. The gas explosion caught up with them just as they were entering the light-filled cavity at the top of the escarpment. From deep in the tunnel resounded a squealing electronic wail. At the same time, almost at the cave system were gasping for breath. A searing wind tore down from a perforation in the grotto's arched ceiling, through which the ship had entered. A muffled, but ground-heaving detonation followed. Then a rolling fireball that was a laughing, scorching exhalation. Whirling to the tunnel they had just exited and managing to remain on his feet. Tenebrous conjured a force shield, weaving his arms that met the fireball inconvenient. Thousands of flaming hawkbats upwelling within the remote like wind-blown embers. A few meters away, Plagueis hurled face first to the ground by the intensity of vaporizing blast, lifting his head in time to see the underside of the doomed sea begin to shed enormous slabs of rock. Directly below the plummeting slabs sat their starship. "Master," he said, scrambling to his feet, with arms lifted in an attempt to hold the rocks in midair. His own arms still raised in a Force summoning posture, Tenebrous swung around to bolster Plagueis' intent. Behind him, the fireball's final flames surged from the mouth of the tunnel to lick his back and drive him deeper into the grotto. The cave continued to spasm underfoot, sending shockwaves through the gray ceiling. Cracks spread like a web from the oculus, triggering collapses throughout the grotto.
Audio Jungle.
Plagueis heard a rending sound overhead and watched a fissure zigzag its way across the ceiling, slowing.
Audio Jungle.
Layer after layer of stone as it followed the grotto's curved wall.
Audio Jungle.
Now, though it was Tenebrous who was positioned beneath the ball. And in that instant, Plagueis perceived the danger Tenebrous had foreseen earlier. His death. His death at Plagueis' hands. While Tenebrous was preoccupied holding aloft the slabs that threatened to crush the ship, Plagueis quickly reordered himself, aiming his raised hands at the plummeting slabs above his master, and with a downward motion of both arms, brought them down so quickly and with so much momentum that Tenebrous was buried almost beneath. Was buried almost before he understood what had hit him. Stone dust edifying around him. Plagueis stood rooted in place as slabs interred the starship as well, but he gave it no thought. His success in bringing the ceiling down on Tenebrous was proof enough that the bit had grown sluggish and expendable. Otherwise, he would have divined the true source of the danger he had sensed, and Plagueis would have been the one pressed to the floor of the grotto. Head cracked open like an egg, and chest cavity pierced by the pointed end of a fallen stalactite. His race to Tenebrous' side was informed as much by excitement as charade could. "Master," he said, gently sitting and removing his and Tenebrous' respirators. His hands pawed at the stones, removing some of the crushing weight. But Tenebrous' single lung was pierced, and blood gurgled in his throat. Ragged tears in the sleeves of the envirosuit revealed esoteric body markings and tattoos. Quote, "Stop, apprentice." Tenebrous strained to say, quote, "You are going to need all your strength." Quote, "I can bring help. There's time." "I'm dying, Darth Plagueis. There's time for only one act." Plagueis held the best of pained gaze, quote, "I did all that I could, master." Tenebrous interrupted him once again. "To be strong in the Force is one thing, but to believe oneself to be all-powerful is to invite catastrophe. Remember that even in the ethereal realm we inhabit, the unforeseen can occur." A stuttering cough silenced him for a moment. Quote, "Better this way, perhaps, than to perish at your hand." As Darth Bane would have wished, Plagueis thought, quote, "Who supplied the mighty growth, master?" Quote, "Subtext," Tenebrous said in a weak voice. Quote, "Subtext, mighty." Plagueis nodded, quote, "I will avenge you." Tenebrous canted his huge head over so slightly, quote, "Will you?" "Of course." Yet the Beth was convinced. He kept it to himself and said instead, quote, "You are fated to bring the Sith imperative to fruition, Plagueis. It falls to you to bring the Jedi Order to its knees and to save the rest of the galaxy's sentience from themselves." At long last, Plagueis told himself, the mantle is conferred. Quote, "But I need to warn you," quote, Tenebrous started to say, and fell abruptly silent. Plagueis could sense the Bith's highly evolved mind, replaying recent events, calculating odds, reaching conclusions. "Warn we? About what, master?" Tenebrous' black eyes shone with yellow light, and his free hand clutched at the ring-collar Plagueis' envirosuit. "You!" Plagueis pried the Bith's thin hand from the fabric and grinned faintly. Quote, "Yes, master, your death comes at my bidding. You said yourself that perpetuation with purpose is the way to victory. And so it is. Go to your grave, know that you are last of the old order. The Funton rule of two, and that the new order brings now, and will for 1,000 years remain in my control." Tenebrous coughed, spittle and blood. Then, for the last time, I call you apprentice, and I applaud your skillful use of surprise and misdirection. Perhaps I was wrong to think you had no stomach. The dark side guided me, Tenebrous. You sensed it, but your lack of faith in me clouded your thoughts. The best had thought in agreement, even before we came to Baldemic. And yet we came. Because we were fated to. Tenebrous paused, then spoke with renewed urgency. But wait, this shit. Crushed as you are. Tenebrous's anger stabbed at Plagueis. You risked everything to undo me. The entire future of the Sith. My instincts about you proved correct. After all. Plagueis leaned away from him, nonchalant, but in fact filled with an icy fury. I'll find a way home, Tenebrous, as you will. And with a chomping motion of his left hand, he broke Bith's neck. Tenebrous was paralyzed and unconscious, but not yet dead. Plagueis had no interest in saving him, even if it were possible, but he was interested in observing the behavior of the Bith's midichlorians as life ebbed. The Jedi thought of the cellular organelles as symbiotes, but to Plagueis, midichlorians were interlopers, running interference for the Force and standing in the way of a being's ability to contact the Force directly. Through years of experimentation and directed meditation, Plagueis had honed an ability to perceive the actions of midichlorians, though not yet the ability to manipulate them. Save to prolong Tenebrous's life. Looking at the bits of the Force, he perceived that the midichlorians were already beginning to die. Die up, as were the neurons that made up Tenebrous's lofty brain and the muscle cells that powered his once able body. A common misconception held that the midichlorians were Force-carrying particles, when in fact they were functioned more as translators, interlocutors of the will of the Force. Plagueis considered his long-standing fascination with the organelles to be as natural as had been Tenebrous's fixation on shaping the future. Where Bith intelligence was grounded in mathematics and computation, Moon intelligence was driven by will to profit. As a Moon, Plagueis viewed his allegiance to the Force as an investment that could, with proper effort, be maximized to yield great returns. True, too, to Moon psychology and tradition. He had through the decades hoarding successes and never once taken Tenebrous into his confidence. The Bith's morebound midichlorians were winking out, like light slowly deprived of a power source, and yet Plagueis could still perceive Tenebrous in the Force. One day, he would succeed in imposing his will on the midichlorians to keep them aggregate. But such speculations were for another time. Just now, Tenebrous, all he had been in life, were beyond Plagueis' reach. He wondered if the Jedi were subsumed in similar fashion, even in life. Did midichlorians behave in the Jedi as they did in the devoutee of the dark side? Were the organelles configured by different impulses, prompted in action by different desires? Had he encountered many Jedi during his lifetime? But he had never made an attempt to study one in the same way he appraised Tenebrous now, out of concern for revealing the power of his alliance with the dark side. That too might have to charge. Tenebrous died while Plagueis observed. In Bane's age, a Sith might have had to guard against an attempted essence transfer. By the deceased, a leap into the consciousness of the Sith who survived. But those times were long past and of no relevance, not since the teachings had been sabotaged. The technique lost. The last Sith possessed of the knowledge had been inexplicably drawn to the light side and killed, taking the secret process with it. Chapter 2. The Inner Landscape. Plagueis was uncertain how long he remained at Tenebrous' side. Long enough that when he rose, his legs were quivering and some of the dust from the explosion had settled. Only when he took a few backward steps did he realize that the event had not left him unscathed. At some point, probably when he was focused on murder, a rock or some other projectile had pulped a large area of his lower back, and now the thin tunic he wore beneath the envirosuit was saturated with blood. Despite the swirling dust, he inhaled deeply, eliciting a stab of pain from his ribcage and a cough that spewed blood into the hot air. Drawing on the force, he numbed himself to the pain and tasked his body to limit the damage as best it could. When the injury ceased to preoccupy him, he surveyed the grotto, remaining anchored in place, but turning a fur circle. Littering the hard ground, injured hawkbats were chirping in distress and clawing through circles of their own. Far above him, a beam of oblique and dust-modded daylight streamed through the dome's large oculus. It saw the result of an earlier collapse. Close to the jumbo stones, the collapse had piled on the grotto floor the Tenebrous small but priceless starship. A Ruges gnome design, alloy wings and snubbed nose poking from the artless mausoleum the explosion had fashioned. And finally, not meters away, lay Tenebrous, similarly interred. Approaching the ship, Plagueis scanned the damage that had been inflicted on the deflector shield and navigation arrays. Coolant duct sensors and antennas, Tenebrous would surely have been able to effect repairs to some of the components, but Plagueis was out of his depth, lacking not only the best fine motor skills, but his knowledge of the ship's systems. Though unique, a marvel of engineering, the ship couldn't be traced to Tenebrous, since both the registry and title were counterfeit. It was possible that the rescue beacon was still functional, but Plagueis was reluctant to activate it. They had arrived on Beldemnik in stealth, and he intended to depart in like that manner. But how? Again, he squinted into light pouring in through the oculus. Not even his power in the force was enough to carry him from the floor and up through the grotto's unblinking eye. Nothing short of a jetpack would do, and the ship didn't cart him. His gaze drifted from the oculus to the grotto's curving walls. He supposed he could spider his way along the arched underside of the dome and reach the eye, but now he saw a better way. More a way to accomplish two tasks at the same time. From a spot mid-distance between the ship and rubble, piled beneath the oculus, he immersed himself in the force, and with gestures not unlike those he and Tenebrous had used in arresting the ceiling collapse, began to levitate slabs from the ship and then add them to the rubble heap, stopping only when he had both exposed the hatch of the ship, and was confident he could force leap through the oculus from atop the augmented pile. When he tried to spring in the hatch, however, he found that it wouldn't budge. He was ultimately able to gain entry to the cockpit by assailing the transporter canopy with a series of force blows. Worming his way inside, he retrieved his travel bag, which contained a comlink, his lightsaber, and a change of clothes, among other items. He also took Tenebrous' comlink and lightsaber, and made certain to erase the memory of the navicomputer. Once outside the ship, he peeled out of the envirosuit and blocks of tunic, trading them for dark trousers and overshirt, lightweight boots, and a hooded robe. Affixing both lightsabers to his belt, he activated the comlink and called up a map of Beldemnik. With scant satellites in orbit, the planet had nothing in the way of a global positioning system, but the map told Plagueis all he needed to know about the immediate area. He took a final look around. It wasn't likely that Antony would have reason to investigate the grotto, and it was less likely that another interstellar visitor would find this place. Even so, he spent a moment regarding the scene objectively. A partially crushed but costly and salvage-worthy starship, the decomposed body of a Beth spaceflight, the aftermath of an explosion event, the scene of an unfortunate accident in a galaxy brimming with him. Satisfied, Plagueis leapt to the top of the pile, then through the roof into the remains of the dead. Alright, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it off there to kind of give you guys a taste of what we're gonna be looking at in the rest of Chapter 2. I hope you guys enjoyed the beginning of the Star Wars novelization, and also liking kind of just the story of Darth Plagueis, his apprenticeship with Darth Tenebrous, which it will go into more detail about their past later. And then, of course, in the end, we get Plagueis' mentorship of Darth Sidious, which I cannot wait to get to. So again, have a great day, and I will see you next time.